Hi everyone, I'm back and I promised I would talk about my spiritual journey and my experience with Kundalini. So I'm going to try and condensate my story in just a few minutes. Um, but I think it's worth it, especially if you're going through a Kundalini awakening or if you're curious about these things. I felt that hearing other people's stories and experiences really helped me. So I hope you can take some value from this story. But I also want to say that you don't have to go through a Kundalini awakening to be able to gain something, some value from my own journey, because Kundalini is just one of the ways that we can achieve enlightenment. Because enlightenment, it's not something you can achieve, it's who you already are, but it's the realization of that, it's the understanding of who you are. But Kundalini is only one way to realize it. But many of the experiences I'm going to talk about actually occur when you go through a normal awakening without the Kundalini. So first of all, let me just explain what the Kundalini is, although I'm certainly sure that if you're watching this video, you already know a little bit about it, or at least you're curious, or you've heard about it somewhere. But Kundalini, it's Shakti, it's life force. When we are born, there is this energy that is coiled, and that is the actual meaning of the word Kundalini in Sanskrit. It's coiled. There is an energy coiled on the basis of our spine, and everybody has it, but not everybody awakens it during this lifetime. Sometimes it does awaken, sometimes it doesn't. But the sages say that once that energy is awakened, she will never stop. And I refer to it in the feminine, and I'll explain it in a second. But she will never stop until you achieve enlightenment or self-realization. And it can take a few lifetimes, it can take the whole of this life, or it can take just a few years or a few weeks or even a split second. Everybody's unique, everybody has a different experience, but the bases are all the same. So I'm gonna share a little bit about my experience. The reason why I call Kundalini a feminine energy, it's because life force is a divine feminine energy. So imagine that in the beginning, and this is this is a story, this is not 100% confirmed, this is not science, this is not mathematics, but this is the way that we can try and make sense of how everything works. So just keep an open mind and understand that we can only point in certain directions. We can't give absolute answers and absolute explanations because we don't know them, okay? But just walk with me for a minute and just see this as a story. Imagine that in the beginning there was one, there was divine essence. You can call it God, you can call it universe, you can call it whatever you want. And it was one, and it didn't know itself. So in order for the one to know itself, it had to have a basis for comparison, right? So it divided itself into masculine and feminine. The masculine energy, we call it divine masculine, and it's pure consciousness. And then the feminine energy, divine feminine, it's the universe, it's matter, it's energy made matter, made real, so to speak. So you have divine masculine consciousness, pure consciousness, and you have the material world, so to speak. You have divine feminine. Consciousness and matter, they're the same. They're two parts of the same coin. Everything in this world is part of that divine feminine, which means that this energy that I'm going to talk about, because it's life force itself, it's divine feminine, okay? But it's in no way, shape or form different or separate from the divine masculine. They both are one. So we have this coiled energy, divine feminine energy, on the base of our spine. And when we're ready, it awakens and it shoots up the spine, and it's very, very intense energy. When it shoots up the spine, it goes through all the different energy centers, so all the different chakras, until it reaches the crown. And once it reaches the crown, it connects with the masculine, so the feminine goes up, the masculine can then come down, and they meet, okay? They meet, and it's bringing consciousness, divine consciousness, the broader part of us, within the material world, within the body. So when this happens, the mind collapses, or the mind rests, and there's the realization of the self, or of the true self, because the masculine and the feminine, they reunite, which means that consciousness and matter become one in our experience, but they were always one. There was never separation. There was only an illusion. So when Shakti awakes, what she starts doing is the energy comes up the chakras, and all the blockages or all the illusions of us being separate from each other, of us being actual people, of the world being the world separate from consciousness, all those illusions, they start disappearing, and you start seeing yourself and the world in a very, very different way. Now, this is a typical spiritual awakening, not just Kundalini, but a spiritual awakening as well, because the spiritual awakening is the change in perspective from I am a separate body to, oh, there's more to me than I thought. Maybe I'm not even a body. Maybe I'm not even a being. Maybe I don't even exist. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's actually where I am at the moment in my journey. Is I'm realizing that me, Maria, as a person doesn't actually exist. But we'll get there. So about 5 years ago, I got divorced, and my life changed quite a lot. I started seeing myself as no longer a victim of circumstances, no longer a victim of the world, because I thought everybody was out to get me and out to hurt me. So I stopped seeing myself as a victim, and I started taking responsibility for my thoughts. After a few months of self-exploration and experiences, and a little bit of dabbling in law of attraction, and having very, very successful experiences with that and everything, but I experienced with breathing exercises, with different types of meditation. I started being a vegetarian. I had ideas about the world that I never thought were possible. And all that became very a big part of my life. And it wasn't until a few months later, after I actually started engaging in all of this, that I realized that there was something more that I was missing. It wasn't just my perspective of myself in the world, there was something more. And I started having dreams of this woman. I had this amazing dream where I was with this woman. She was made of water, blue water, and she was in front of me. And she looked at me and she said, I'm your divine feminine and I'm ready to awaken. And it was so like, what? And then she said, just look down. And I looked down and she was coming out of my sacral, which is called also the lower seat of the soul. It's where the actual divine feminine energy sits and rules your life and yourself. But those are all just details, okay? I want to give you just an idea of my journey, my story, so you have a little bit of an idea of what Kundalini can do. About 6 months after I started encountering the goddess Shakti, the divine feminine, I had a Kundalini awakening. So I just went to bed to sleep, and I felt like someone was touching the back of my back, on my heart, but on the back. And I just turned around, I was like, I'm on my own. What is this, right? And it just went away. Nothing was there. And a few minutes later, on the same spot, I felt like lava was burning, and it was drips of lava coming on my spine, and it started going down, going up, going down, going up. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I was being burned from the inside out. And I've heard of Kundalini before. Experiences can be very traumatic, and I was very, very afraid of it, although I understood what was going on. But it was very scary. But at one point, I just let go and thought, I'm going to surrender, because this energy is so strong, it can kill me. It can actually kill me right here if she wants to. So I sat on my bed for hours. I had no thoughts at all. My mind was completely blank. And when I looked at the clock, was already past 6 in the morning. I spent the whole night with the energy just pulsating and burning and pulsating and burning. And it was coming out of my head, and then it was going down again, and then it was going up, and it was burning everything. It was the most amazing mystical experience, if you want to call it a mystical experience, that I have ever had, and I had quite a few. So after that, my life changed even more. For the 3 weeks after that, I couldn't relate to the world. I couldn't speak to people. I couldn't have a conversation. I felt like I was in a completely different dimension. There was nothing important but being in my center. Nothing else mattered. And it continued like that for quite a long time. With time, I kept feeling the energy. Every night she would come in. The moment I would lay in bed and rest, she would come up and burn a little bit more. I started losing people in my life. I started not being able to maintain proper conversations or proper socially acceptable conversations. People started saying I was weird, I was different, and they just started leaving me. And it was what I needed. I lost a lot of people that didn't really mean anything in the end. They were just holding me back. Fast forward a little bit, all my chakras started opening one after the other, and with every new chakra opening up, I had different experiences relating to that level of consciousness. When the Kundalini reached my heart, I thought that I knew what love was, but when it reached my heart, I felt what seemed to be petals, one after the other, opening up, and I felt love like I've never felt before. It's impossible to explain because you can't explain it in words. It was beautiful, and again, when it reached the heart, I couldn't relate to anybody. For quite a long time, I couldn't have a conversation. I was in a different dimension. Again, I was going through this amazing expansion, and it was beautiful. With that, different experiences came into being. I felt like I was forced, although I wasn't forced, but this energy has a way of letting you know when it's time to let go of something. And I left my normal job, my normal life. I lost my car, I lost my job, I almost lost my house, but I had this amazing experience of being on my own, going within and working on myself for a whole year. So I was home for a year and a half, and in that time I didn't leave any rock unturned. So I looked for all my traumas. I cried half of the time because I was healing myself. And this was all of these processes, they were stronger than me, stronger than Maria, you know. It was something I could not fight. This was coming from within. This is what I need to do. I need to sit down and process this. So I processed all my traumas for over a year. I cried a lot, but when I came out of the hermit phase, because I was just closing myself down and keeping myself to myself, I emerged as a different person. So within that period of time, my throat opened up, then my third eye opened up, and then my crown opened up. And when it opened, it was, I don't have words to describe it. Shakti came up, and Shiva, the divine masculine, came down. They met and they intertwined. I could see, it seemed like the image of a DNA strand, just all moving and intertwining, and I was complete. I was one with everything. There was no separation. There was no suffering. There was just this expansion. There was just me. And then after that happened, my thoughts changed again. I started having moments of complete peace, which I used to have through the whole process, but it's like I lost half of my thoughts. So imagine I used to have 10 thoughts within the day. Now I had 5. my mind activity went down to half, I would say half, since then. And I started realizing that everything, myself, the people, the world, it's all an illusion. I investigated for hours where do these feelings come from, where do these thoughts come from, and every time I investigated, I could not find the person. The person doesn't exist. It's just a manifestation of the whole. And with every breath, with every heartbeat, I feel more connected to the whole. Yes, I'm still human. I still have feelings. I still have difficulties, but I'm in the eye of the storm. Everything is calm. Everything is perfect. There's no separation between me and you. The whole world is me. It's just beautiful. So when people ask, why should I want to know myself? Why, if there's so much suffering, why should I want to be awakened? Why should I pursue a spiritual journey? This is why. This is why. It's because there's no more illusions. There's just a recognition of who you are. There's this expansion and this connection to everything, everyone. It's just it just is. This is my story, and I'm sure my story hasn't finished yet. It's a work in progress, like everything else. I am actually writing a book about all the details of the whole story in detail. It will be coming out pretty soon, I hope, although it's still a work in progress. But if you're going through an experience like this, just hold on, okay? Don't give up, because it's recognizing who you are, recognizing that there's no separation, that everything is connected, that you as a person never actually existed. It's just a role that it's being played by the whole. The connection, the love, the peace, the calmness, it comes. Just don't give up, okay? You're not alone. Reach out. Reach out. I'm more than happy to help shed some light and maybe point some direction that it's easier. But I felt this amazing, overwhelming urge to talk about my story, and feels natural, feels right, and I hope it brings a lot of value. All my love to all of you listening. See you soon.